Early that morning, Fushi continues to be surprised about who the young man in front of him is. When they meet, he introduces himself as the sixth successor of the Hyase. However, Fushi seems less bothered about who he is but is concerned that he's a man. To that, Kahaku states that he is the first male descendant of the Hyase that Fushi has met and apologizes for surprising him. Apparently, Hyase's descendants have always been women, and this happens to have been the rule. However, Kahaku's mother passed away before giving birth to a girl. Just then, Kahaku wonders if Fushi had ever read the story of his ancestors. They had always wanted him to learn about the love between a man and a woman to make Fushi understand this better. Kahaku recommends a book for him to read, offering to bring it to him. However, Fushi is less concerned and doesn't give him a reply. With no response from Fushi, Kahaku urges him to be comfortable around him since he likes women and would have no need to seduce Fushi. Shortly after, Fushi finally speaks, asking Kahaku why he had come. In reply, Kahaku warns him of pending danger. Just then, two armed men barge into the room, demanding to see the immortal Fushi as they seek to kill him. However, Kahaku had successfully warned him about their arrival before they had come in. This had caused them to see his absence. While they rant on, Kahaku informs them that Fushi had heeded his warning about their coming and had fled just in time. Hearing this, the two men are infuriated and try to advance further into the room. Fortunately for Fushi, they are stopped by Kahaku, who threatens them to take it up with the town lord, who had invited Kahaku and his men to the town in order to protect Fushi. Angry, the men leave but not before threatening to arrest them all. After they leave, Fushi comes out of hiding and takes his human form once again. Just then, Fushi wonders what exactly is going on. At that point, Kahaku hands him a poster signifying a bounty on his head, promising to pay his captors 1,000 gold pieces. He informs Fushi that this is the work of their enemies, the Church of Bennett. Apparently, the church considers Fushi and the Guardians to be heretics due to their growing influence on the people. The church worries that Fushi isn't a warrior who has come to fight their enemy, the Knockers, but an evil entity who is only attracting them. Hearing all this, Fushi feels bad and apologizes for causing so much trouble. However, Kahaku urges him not to apologize and instead join the Guardians. Since their inception 200 years ago, the Guardians have dedicated their lives to fighting the Knockers. Without much thought, Fushi declines his offer but agrees to stick around in order to prevent the further killing of innocent people. Later that day, Fushi heads out accompanied by the Guardians, and they arrive at a village containing strong supporters of the Guardians. They are all excited to see Fushi and adore him excessively. These actions by the villagers surprise Fushi, but he's told by Kahaku that the people only react in this way because they finally believe that Fushi is not just a rumor but is helping them. To gather more supporters, as they proceed into the village, a woman comes pleading to Fushi, demanding that he helps her son who had been captured by soldiers and needed ransom to be freed. Astonishingly, Fushi makes coins rain down from his hands. This act and many others are considered to be a miracle by the villagers. Meanwhile, not all the villagers seem so happy to see Fushi. While Fushi and Kahaku walk around the village, a group of boys throw eggs at him, demanding that he leaves their village and returns to his lair of demons. At this moment, they are attacked by bounty hunters seeking the 1,000 gold coins promised by the Church of Bennett. While they charge at Fushi, one of them is thrown out of the way by Kahaku, who makes use of the power embedded in his arm. This terrifies the bounty hunters, causing them to flee. Later that night, Kahaku informs Fushi that he needs a suitable disguise since they are in danger of being attacked anytime by more bounty hunters. At first, Fushi thinks this isn't necessary but eventually decides to try out different disguises. First, he tries an old woman, but Kahaku informs him that it would be hard to travel in such a disguise. After multiple attempts, he transforms into a beautiful lady, which definitely gets the attention of Kahaku, leaving him speechless. Not surprisingly, he seems to agree with this form and has nothing bad to say about it. The next morning, Kahaku continues to be shy around Fushi. However, This doesn't stop him from informing Fushi about their intended visit to Kargil, a region in the south. When Fushi comes out of his tent, he's offered a horse by Kahaku, but Fushi insists on not wanting to travel in human form. He asks Kahaku to choose which form would be best among limited options, and he decides to travel as a dog. At Kargil, Fushi remains in disguise and sees some soldiers setting up a flag. Immediately, she identifies the flag as that of Jananda. Kahaku explains that the flag marks the hope which the people have in her. This causes him to worry, and he heads into the woods to clear his head. However, he continues to be followed by Kahaku and the Guardian. While walking, Fushi thinks about how he only wants to meet people who understand him and make friends. Furthermore, he wonders if Kahaku and the Guardians are his friends. At that moment, Fushi steps on a trap, causing them all to be captured in a net. Unfortunately, they're captured by the Prince of the Aurelus Kingdom, whose long and weird name shortens to Bonsama. The prince happens to have figured out Fushi's disguise. He states that he has come to capture Fushi. Shortly after, Fushi escapes from the net, wielding a sword in her hand. This scares Bonsama greatly, allowing his soldiers, who had been hiding in the forest, to reveal themselves. Seeing them, Fushi is surprised at their numbers but remains unmoved. In a shocking turn of events, Fushi offers himself up to be captured, demanding that Bonsama doesn't mess with the Guardians in return. However, Kahaku insists on traveling with him to the palace, seeking to protect him at all costs. Later that night, Fushi communicates with the Black One, asking him how many people had been killed by the knockers. She is shocked to find out that over 13,000 people have been killed. This number devastates her and makes her wonder what exactly she is doing amongst humans. Her thoughts are interrupted by the nosy and childish Bonsama, who continues to rant but is ignored by her. The next day, they arrive at the kingdom of her Alice, and the people are excited at the capture of Fushi. They continue to praise him for this huge feat, which he made almost no effort to accomplish. However, he seems obsessed with the thought of pleasing his father in hopes that his father would one day consider him as the heir to the throne. When he finally meets his father, the two are incredibly excited about seeing each other. Unfortunately, his father doesn't find this accomplishment worthy of making him the heir to the throne. Ignoring his father, he demands that Fushi change into better clothes. Just then, the palace's fashionistas put the now female Fushi into a beautiful dress. Seeing her, Kahaku is once again speechless. Apparently, the king had invited them for dinner, which had been the reason for her change of clothes. While the dinner table is set, Fushi is seen by Torta, Bonsama's little brother, whom his father has chosen to be the heir, and Poko, his little sister, who is surprised that Fushi would look so beautiful, especially since she had heard he was a boy. At the dinner table, the queen questions her husband about what he wishes to do with Fushi before the king replies. Kahaku states that Fushi is under the support and protection of the Guardians, therefore, he has to be consulted before any decision is made. While they talk, Kahaku brings up Tonari's diary and the fact that he had heard that he often changed into Tonari. The talk about Tonari angers her, and she walks away from the dinner table. Later that night, Kahaku tries to find her but is unable to. However, Bonsama seems to be on the lookout for her as well and is more fortunate than Kahaku in catching her in her animal form. Kahaku sees him at this point and proposes a term to fit in with the fact that Fushi had earlier agreed to be captured willingly. He proposes that Bonsama gives Fushi an army to fight against the knockers. In the middle of their conversation, Pako comes to inform Bonsama about the arrival of some guests. When he gets there, he and the king are met by 3 pontiffs from the Church of Bennett who claim that they have come to take Fushi. In reply, Bonsama openly declares that he was the one who captured Fushi and will not let her go. This quietly annoys the pontiffs who threaten to return in the future. After that, Bonsama takes Fushi to a room in the palace and places him there. However, Fushi tries to escape by turning into a bird and flying out through the window. Unfortunately, his attempts are stopped by Bonsama, who figures it out and throws a rock at the flying bird. Just then, he asks Fushi why he wants to escape. He assumes that he's only scared of the fact that the knockers would come looking for him and end up harming innocent people. In response, Fushi admits that the reasons he had stated are actually true. This prompts Bonsama to offer help. He promises to give Fushi an army and join him in fighting off the knockers. While we expect Fushi to be elated at this turn of events, he states that he had earlier wanted what Bonsama had suggested but doesn't think he wants that anymore. He says this because he's scared of losing the people he has met once he gets defeated by the knockers. He has grown so fond of them by now. However, he doesn't wish to sacrifice the people who are alive now for the sake of his fighting. Apparently, he had made a vow not to let anyone close to him get killed by the knockers in his presence. He resolved that in the case of such events, he would quit and give his entire body to the knockers in a bid to end their attacks. At that moment, the Black One appears, assuring him that even if he loses everything that he is, he will only be forced to restart from nothing. However, Fushi doesn't seem to care about that. On the other hand, in solidarity, Bonsama vows to provide Fushi with a new world. He urges him to wait until after that is achieved before he decides whether